we need to talk about Ja Morant. Now, I know Ja Morant has had a pretty wild season. Hell, I haven't covered it at all at this point, and I probably should have, that would have done well for the views. But the reason I'm deciding to talk about it now is because the NBA Finals has just ended, and you know what that means. Adam Silver, in the coming days, is going to announce Ja Morant's punishment. The reason he hasn't already announced Ja Morant's punishment is because he didn't want to take away from the NBA Finals, like he stated here.
And my sense now is that shortly after the conclusion of the finals, we will announce the outcome of that investigation.
So now that that's all over with, the news is coming. Now, the suspension is probably going to be a big one, considering the fact that Ja's PR team came out and said their excuse was that, the video, he was holding a toy gun. A pretty whack excuse, if we're being honest. Come on, Ja Morant's social team, do better. Do better. I mean, it was a toy gun. What kind of an excuse is that? Nah, the suspension's going to be heavy. I would say at the least 40 games, but even then, I think that's going pretty easy on the guy. I mean, he's had multiple chances at this point, and he just, he fails over and over and over again. How big of a leash do you want to put on Ja Morant? Now, I know he hasn't committed any crimes, but, he does work for the league. He is an employee for the NBA, and employees, when they make their bosses look bad, or the companies they're working for look bad, they have all the reason to be punished. And Ja Morant flashing guns on IG Live several times, it makes the league look bad. It gives them a sort of not so good reputation. So they have all the reason to punish the guy. Now, 40 games, would be enough if this was a one-time thing. But this isn't a one-time thing. And Ja Morant has done this before, and he didn't even do it that long ago. It was a few months ago when he did it the first time. So, honestly, 40 games is going easy on him. If I were, not saying that I am, but if I were in charge of giving them a punishment, I'd say 82 games. I think a full season, and of course, if the Memphis Grizzlies somehow manage to make the playoffs with Ja Morant, without Ja Morant, then, he could play in the playoffs. Sure, do that. But I do think he should be suspended for most of, if not all of next season. Just because Ja Morant's already been given several chances, and again, it doesn't seem to matter. So if you were the 1,000th subscriber, that would be dope. 99% of you guys are not subscribed. Crazy number. How is that even possible? You tell me. But you could be part of that 1% by subscribing right now. So do that for me, will you? Thank you. Anyway, let's just get back to it. Now, as a fan of basketball, I would hate to see Ja Morant not play, because he is one of, if not the most exciting player in the league. Hell, I'm a Lakers fan, and when I saw him go for that crazy old dunk on LeBron, I was kind of hyped, because that just looked amazing. How many players in the league are going to attempt that? Now, yes, he did have his wrist injured in that series, and that missed dunk only went on to make that injury even worse. So I don't know if it was the brightest decision. Probably wasn't, but he does what other players are not willing to do, and that is to go for the flashy and exciting plays, risk your health for, some excitement. He brings a big audience to the league. Everyone wants to be like Ja Morant. He's like the Allen Iverson of the 2020s. Now, Allen Iverson didn't do anything crazy like waving guns around, but he did go to court right before he was drafted, I'm pretty sure. I don't know the whole story on AI. It happened a little bit before I was born. But what I do know is that Adam Silver is not happy with Ja Morant at all. And that's really unfortunate, because the Grizzlies are building something. It's not all about Ja Morant. Had he, been more responsible and had better friends around him, he would have been able to recognize that not everything's about him. I mean, guys like Desmond Bane, Brandon Clark, Jaren Jackson, hell, their head coach, that bald dude with the beard, he's pretty cool, I forgot his name. They're all suffering because Ja Morant couldn't get his act together. I would say Dylan Brooks, but he's already out of town. Somewhere in China, Shanghai, it doesn't matter. Dylan Brooks is gone, which, poke the bear, man. Anyway, all these guys in Memphis are suffering because Ja Morant couldn't, he wasn't responsible. He wasn't better with his actions, which honestly, he is like a 20-something-year-old, grew up in the spotlight. He hasn't fully matured yet, so I will give him a benefit of the doubt when it comes to that. He's, still super young. Sure, he is an adult, but he's a young adult. They do dumb things. He's barely, he hasn't had a normal life. He's a millionaire. There's a lot of varying factors going into this. A lot of outside noise that you need to consider when talking about this very serious situation. Now, we're all going to miss Ja Morant, whether it's for half a year or even a full season, but I think the league needs to punish him and it needs to be serious so that they set a good precedent as, for this to not happen in the future. I mean, Tyreke Evans was suspended for what? Indefinitely? I don't even know what he did. Can someone tell me what Tyreke Evans did in the comments down below? I just remember that fool being suspended and he has not came back since. Maybe that's because he's kind of a mediocre player now who's like in his mid to late 30s. But I can't really remember why Tyreke Evans was suspended, but he was suspended. And it was indefinitely. I mean, that guy has not been in the league for the last 3 years. I'm waiting for that Tyreke Evans comeback story. That's going to be hype. Hell, I might even make a video on it. That'll perform very poorly, but I don't care. Tyreke Evans is really cool to watch. Kind of miss him. Loved using him in 2K. Distraction. Let's get back to the point. And that's Ja Morant. Now, he is hurting his team massively, like I stated. Everyone is getting punished in Memphis because of what he's done. So, what is the team going to do from here? Well, Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bain, Brandon Clark. Ja Morant did miss a few games in the season last year. And without him, they weren't as good, but they were still pretty good. Honestly, I'd say they're a top 6 team in the West without Ja. So they can hold their own. But should they look at making, some small moves, maybe kind of big moves, this offseason with their roster? Jaren Jackson, I think, is a good duo with Ja Morant. Brandon Clark and Desmond Bain. Once Brandon Clark comes back from his injury, I think you could have got a solid starting four right there. Steven Adams, he was also injured. So let's not forget that Memphis was badly banged up. Xavier Tillman's still on the roster. Yes, this is going to be a top 6 team in the West without Ja Morant. But should they maybe look at adding a third star and, on the low key? It would really suck if this was the way that Ja Morant went out. Followed in the steps of Mikey Williams. Obviously not. A bad joke, whatever. Catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.